Everybody gets the blues now and then and don't know what to do. I've had it happen many, many times to me, and so have you. But those days have gone and passed. I found out what to do at last when I feel all in doubt and out. You will hear me shout. Hello Central, give me Dr. Jazz. He's got what I need, I know he has. And when the world is wrong and I've got the blues, he's the one who makes me get out with my dancing shoes. The more I get, the more I want it.
Beautiful. Lovely. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, actually. Hope you're doing well. Yolban, Remy, Cinnamon Boy. The Cinnamon Boy, Salty Boy. There's two boys named next to each other. Threw me off. PC Marky, Chaos. Hey, Chaos Lord. There's a little Chaos Cat. We got Science Guide. We got Fluffy, Surat, Jabot. Good morning. Welcome. It is, thanks for following. The suit and tie. That's right, Hunter. It's special presentation day. So, feel free to ask questions, throw out ideas, share your thoughts. We'll have time for big questions at the end. And then we'll answer any questions during the presentation too. We'll just hang out. We're gonna talk about soil. Soil's really cool. Businessman, yes, Adam, that's right. Barbie doll, good morning. So, is the tapestry alive? The one on the wall? It's fake plants. So this is a presentation I initially created when I was working at a botanical garden. There was a nursery that wanted me to talk about soil. And I was like, sure, I love soil. Soil is actually amazing. When I was in grad school, I learned about soil for the first time. And it changed my life because if you understand soil, then you can understand so much about the environment and the plants and the eco-regions. Soil is this fascinating thing that is underappreciated. Oh, let me hide my face. Or move it, maybe. Get that out of there. Get my head out of here. The importance of soil. Lovely. My name is Matthew Gaston. I'm a plant biologist, and my graduate school program was tropical plant and soil science. And I was like, okay, soil science is great. I don't know a lick about it. So they asked me to help TA the class. And I said, I don't know anything. And so then I got to learn because I had to teach. So this presentation will be a lovely introduction. So just for folks who might not know, my name is Matthew Gaston, and I'm from San Antonio, Texas. This is the Alamo, which is in San Antonio. Helios, hey, welcome. Morgs, yes. I loved plants as a kid, and I was obsessed with them. I went to a summer camp when I was like in 3rd grade, and I got hooked on them. And ever since then, I've been fascinated with plants and big leaves. Here in Central Texas, leaves are small. You remember that building? I'm glad. Well, I mean, I don't know. You know, that people... Anyway, remember the Alamo, that's what they say. I was obsessed with big leaves, and the more leaves and plants I saw, the more fascinating they were. And I went to California, and I got to see more plants. This is a little thing called a man root. Looks like a Pikmin with its little arms, but this is a root. And then I was teaching different things and classes out in California, ecology and biology and things like that. And I was like, hey, teaching is really fun. I love talking about plants with folks. And then I went to Hawaii and studied more plant stuff and helped teach classes and taught some classes there. So I missed Texas a lot when I was in Hawaii, and I ended up coming back to Austin, Texas, and working at the Zilker Botanical Garden, and now I'm here. I hit a point where I could impact and affect and help educate more folks. And so I became a private educator, independent consultant, basically Indiana Jones if he was a plant biologist. Oh yeah, if you say so. As a kid, I was obsessed with Indiana Jones actually, and I would just like wear all the clothes that he had, and that little hat. These little like brown hats. I was like, oh, that's my obsession with Indiana Jones. My parents definitely fed into that. Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones. So, yes, I'm an educator. I like to entertain folks, and I also like to evaluate our systems to make sure that they're good for the environment and good for us. So I do consultation and education and have fun and educate. Jeree, welcome. Today's presentation. It's always good to define the objective. That way you know what you're trying to do. Folks will be able to describe soil. You're going to be able to say, hey, look at that spodosol. It looks a little austic to me. You're going to be able to provide examples of how to improve soil. Actually, no, with the importance of soil. The third thing is be able to how to improve your native soils. So why is soil so gosh darn important? It is the cornerstone of our ecosystems, as we will see. This presentation, I have bits and pieces for Austin, Texas. So folks who are in Austin, Texas will have some examples that are right under their feet, and then the things can be extrapolated all over the world to Thailand and Korea and Uzbekistan and England. So it's all science at the end of the day. So what do you notice in this picture? You can, in the chat. I usually do this in front of a live studio audience. So what do you notice in this picture? Yolban, I agree with you. Strata of soil, Avharsh. Yes, you got layers, sediment, gradient of textures. The rocks are different colors. They look like layered cake. Spicy noodles, you say PP. Great, these are all good. PP's close because this thing is called a pedon. That's close, you got the P. You like the colors in the pic, me too. So, y'all have described precisely what this is. This is called the soil profile. This is a picture from University of Texas here in the area that I live in called Travis County. This is where the city I'm in, and the city that I'm in has two distinct types of soil. And this is this is one of them. This is what we call the Edwards Plateau. It's rocky and there's layers. So in geology, we call these layers strata when you hit the rocks. So this top layer, these are soil layers, and we'll talk about what those are called. It looks like it's layered like a cake. So I love this color palette and these plants. These are the plants I grew up with. There's an oak, there's a little baby juniper, and this is all limestone. T266726, you're very familiar with Travis County. Well, then some of the things here might be very prominent. Like stratosphere. Yeah, we'll take a look at that. So wait, what is soil really? Because everything I showed you in this little red box is actually soil. But that looks like a rock to me. Well, yeah, there is some bedrock here. But this is all soil. What is soil? Well, let's see what soil isn't. Soil is not dirt. If you say, look at that dirt over there, I will smite you. Dirt is the stuff that's on your boots when you walk inside. Yeah, rocks can be part of the soil, Hunter. That's correct. And bedrock is part of the soil strata too. Soil is old dead things. That's part of soil, yeah, Jabbat. So dirt, dirt is the stuff that is on your boots, and you might even put it under your pillow for the dirt man. I like the song. You can go follow him. He's my mutual. So dirt is the pieces of soil and whatever it may be that's just misplaced. Misplaced soil is dirt. So yes, Dirt. We love dirt. Actually, no, I don't like dirt because it's misplaced soil and it gets everywhere. Hey, Tycoon, thank you for subscribing. You got a little dancing Pikachu. So, well, let's also talk about what soil is. So, Yolban, soil is basically nature recycling itself. There you go. That's a great way to put it. I like that example, the way you wrote that. Animal corpses, anything to be left outside and become part of the soil. So, people also say, oh, soil is what your plant is growing in. Well, actually, plants grow in a thing called media. Tycoon, you subscribe because of the dirt, man. We love that, right? This little cactus is not growing in soil. It's growing in a mixture of peat moss and bark and compost. And that's plant media. And soil is one of the types of media. Medium is a single type of media. So this is growing in potting media for a tropical cactus. I'm put this back. I'll get too excited. The media man. Did you say barf? Bark. Bark mulch. Hunter. And so what is soil? Well, it's the outermost layer of the Earth's crust. And the phrase that is the most scientifically accurate, that no one uses, is pedosphere. Because a pedon is like the layer of soil. But no one wants to say this, so they just call it soil. So it's a multiphasic mixture that has organisms in it. It holds water, so it's biological. It has water in it. It's a modifier of the environment, so it interfaces with like the stratosphere. And then there's the degradation of the surface, which is the rocks breaking down. Yeah, well, this is science, baby. Science guide. So let me move my face. Get it out of here. Get that thing. There. So the soil interacts with the biosphere, the living things in the world. It interacts with the hydrosphere, the water, the atmosphere, the air, and lithosphere, which is the rocky layers of the earth. And so there's an open seat up front, Astromare, if you want to take the front seat. No one wants to sit up front. But you're welcome to sit up front. We'll give you time to sit down. Thank you for subscribing, Jeree. Oh, we got those little cats. I love the cats. I also love soil. Cute. Is there a fire sphere? We won't be talking about that next. Right now. So here's the example. The pedosphere interacts with the biosphere, the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, and the lithosphere. But from now on, I'll just be saying soil. No more pedosphere talk. Artie, you're on time. We're just getting to the good stuff. So, soil plays a critical role in energy and nutrient cycling. So this is soil in the middle. You can see that it's an important bottleneck for the cycling of energy with the biological system. So the sun feeds energy into plants, and then animals eat those plants, and then those nutrients are cycled from the plants to the animals, and then we might eat them. And then when they die, boom, soil. Straight to the soil. Once they're in the soil, guess what happens? Their corpses interact with the lithosphere, and that sediment breaks down. Roots of plants can break down rocks into soil, and we'll talk about that. And then the interactions with the ocean and the water collecting in soil. The atmosphere interacts with both of these things. Soil is what's in the ground, dirt is left on your shoes. That's right. Marcus, you made it. That's exactly right. There's a seat up front with Astromare if you want to sit over there. Why not call it the foot sphere? Well, that's a good question. Noob. Thanks for following. Wow. And Rafus Miranda, thanks for the gifted subs. That's very sweet and unexpected. You like dirt. Or soil, even. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. When we look at soil, it's a critical part for nitrogen cycling. This diagram shows different types of nitrogen. On the left, there's human activities, the atmosphere, all the importance of soil, and then how water interacts too. So if we look at the soil, plants have their roots in the soil, and they're interacting with the soil organic matter, which is, interacting with the different things in the nitrogen cycle. So these nitrogen compounds are altered by different organisms and, taken up by plants. And then from there, you can even have little tiny microorganisms in the roots of plants that are taking atmospheric nitrogen and then putting it back into the biosphere. So all of this is important. Plant teaching. You want to learn about shrubberies. Well, at the end of this presentation, we're going to vote for the next topic. Carbon cycling. So soil is an important part of carbon cycling. If you look at these diagrams, this is like the pool sizes of carbon, and it changes, but it gives you a relative understanding. For example, they're doing construction outside. Something hit the window. Vegetation and plants can hold a ton of carbon. This example is 650, but look at the soil is over twice that. So soil can hold more carbon than vegetation. The ocean is really impressive. So for those marine biologists out there, keep doing the Lord's work. But soil, my favorite part about soil is how it interacts with living things. The plants, the animals, the other little things that are so strange, like protozoa and oomycetes and fungi. So, you can have plants directly interacting with organic matter. The roots of the plants can exude hydrogen acid to take up nutrients. Chemistry. Does varying humans and caskets keep carbon out of the cycle? I think that there's a component there, yeah. So you have these different animals in the soil, like nematodes, good nematodes, bad nematodes. Arthropods eat little fungi and things in the soil, and then bigger animals eat those, and then we eat those bigger animals. So isn't this part of the nitrogen cycle? Yeah, this is also part of the nitrogen cycle. Here it's highlighting a food web and the exchange of energy through trophic levels. So on the bottom it says first trophic level, which is taking energy from the sun. And then you lose 90% of the energy. It's not super efficient. But then these things, consume that, and then those things consume those. And so in the consumption, there's also nitrogen exchanged. So how do we describe soil? We say that it's a dirty little stinker, a little stinker dinker. In the articles, actually, we specifically call them stinker dinkers. No, we don't. You can describe soil by the size of the particles. You can describe soil by the size of the particles. Wonder, you had a question about maximizing nitrogen intake. Well, in terms of energy efficiency, consuming plant material is more efficient than consuming a cow. So, yeah, because the cow has to eat the grass. And, if you had to choose between two types of fish, eating tilapia is more energy efficient than eating salmon, because salmon is a carnivore and tilapia is an herbivore. So they have to grow little shrimp, basically, to feed the salmon. Loam gang, yeah. We're about to hit that loam. We're about to hit that good stuff. So first you got to talk about the particle sizes. So you gravel, really big particles, coarse sand, and then you can have fine sand, silt, and clay. Clay, really tiny, tiny particles. And when the particles are really, really tiny, they stick together really finely, and they can get thick. Yeah, energy minimizes as you go up in trophic levels. Exactly. So if I simply ate cows constantly, it would be very energy inefficient compared to eating soybeans and rice, which is really much more efficient. And at the end of the day, the nitrogen consumption might not be the critical thing. Is energy as a whole, in terms, you can think of kilocalories as the unit of energy. Nitrogen is just a nutrient in that cycle. I think it would be easier to conceptualize it as energy in kilocalories. Orange Tama, thanks for following. Okay, look at this. Now this is your favorite. Everybody's getting a little bit excited about this. Triangle. I am allergic to cows. That's why I don't eat them. You can mix the particle sizes So, you know, you're looking at the sand and silt and clay, and you can create a triangle of these things by putting 3 axes. I'm going to hide my face here. These 3 axes are sand on the bottom, clay on this side, and silt on this side. On the far right, 0% sand to 100%, and then over here, 0% clay to 100%, and then silt 0 to 100. Now you have to, this is a texture, so the texture is percentages of particle sizes. And look at this. If you have, so let's go to 50% clay, and then 50% silt, which would be right here. This is silty clay. Let's say it's like 40% clay, 40% silt, and 20% sand. So 40% clay over to the 40% silt, and then 20% sand is right here at this junction. And if it falls into one of these and you say, okay, the texture of this is clay, or this is clay loam. Here in Austin, Texas, our soil is clay loam. Clay is such an impactful particle because it's so small, it actually dominates. So you see the section on top's huge because the effects of that particle can change. So pure sand texture is rare. Not necessarily. That's a good question. So what happens here is that this is simply like if there are other particles mixed in with the sand, it has a different texture. It does, just because it's small in this diagram doesn't mean it's rare. It simply is describing the ratios of those particles required to achieve that texture. So we might go to a beach and it might be actually sandy loam or loamy sand, I'm sorry. But yeah. So morgue, the difference between these is the size of the particles. So if you're looking at soil under the microscope, you might have really big particles that are like 2 millimeters wide, and that's called sand. But if the particle is smaller, it could be fine sand. And as it gets tinier, then it's silt or clay. So right now we're looking at sand, silt, and clay. And the ratio of those 3 sizes on the right give you textures. And this affects a lot of things, including permeability. So how quickly water can move through that soil. Hunter has a question about clay. Can we say clay referring to the same clay as pottery? Yep, that's exactly the same. You could go out and collect 100% clay from the side of a river, which is where you might find it. And you can fire it and put it in a kiln and you'll get real pottery. Yeah. So the permeability, the people who study this are obsessed with physics and coefficients. And so there's different names and things. But if you have grains of sand up here, everything will go through quickly. There's rapid permeability, the infiltration. If you have blocky soil, then it goes kind of slow. And if you have soil that forms plates, then it's really, really slow because it has to go through each plate. And so there's different soil structures that you can get based on the type of textures. And there's different coefficients of permeability. So this is highly permeable this is the coefficient in 1 centimeter per second. Clean gravel, if you've ever gotten a bunch of rocks and poured water through it, it goes through very quickly. But if you get clay, like ceramics, like Remy loves clay and finding wild clay, so Remy would know that you can get the clay and you can pour water on the clay and it'll take forever for that water to go all the way through the clay. Is sand mining bad? You mean collecting sand? I mean, taking things from the environment has consequences. Privyet, dalo look. Does this affect the climate of certain areas as well? Soil interacts with all those different spheres, the atmosphere, the hydrosphere. So in significant amounts, it can be quite notable. Your wetlands class, Saza Dali. Your professor loves soil. Soil is so important. When you look at soil, you can classify it. And if you got a wetland, so in your wetlands class, you probably interacted with soils that were described as aquic. So these are terms for describing how moist or wet a soil is. It can be aquic. Aquic, which means it's highly saturated so much that there might not even be oxygen in the soil. It can be eudic, which means it's humid or subhumid. Xeric, which is Mediterranean climates. So when you talk about soil, California is xeric, which means it has this kind of chaparral climate. So Astromere, exactly. A swamp with mud is aquic, or some people use the word perudic. I like to say aquic because it gets the point across. I'm doing really well, Delalok. Talking about soil. Soil reminds you of Buddhism. Yeah, the cycle of samsara. And then you can have more dry soils. Aridic, or toric is arid. So here's the diagram showing the different soil moistures, and it's what you might expect. The pink is xeric, which means like chaparral Mediterranean climate where it's wet in the winter and hot in the summer. And so California and Spain and Turkey and places over here. Aridic is your deserts. So you can see that the red is all desert. And then perudic, which is aquic, which is the blue. That is the wettest areas. And the Mississippi River Delta is like that. If you look at the United States, the blue is kind of the like wetlands and super moist soils to the point where there might not even be room for oxygen to permeate through. Yeah, that was a big one. So if you look at this little pin is where I am in Austin, Texas, and our soil is described as like semi-arid. Pretty much everything everything that's not this like Udic, like kind of wet, this area is probably going to have some issues with drought in the future, if not even presently. But like the water wars will happen over here. So one of the things that you can see with soil moisture is that it correlates directly to the geology and precipitation and location. When you talk about, you can also, your Udic, oh yeah, a little bit saturated. You can also describe temperature of soil. And so this is at 50 centimeters below the surface, you can get the average temperature. So pergelic is like frigid permafrost. Subgelic, gelic means frozen. Frigid is like frozen, literally, but this is below frozen. Mesic, thermic, and hyperthermic. Hyperthermic is tropical. Sage of Senpai, yeah, Northwestern looks like it's on fire. Yes, and some of these environments have evolved to require fire, so they need fire for the plants to grow. These are the soil moisture regimes. I'm sorry, soil temperatures. And so basically, if it's hyperthermic, it's tropical, and it just means the soil is always moist. I mixed them up. The soil is always hot, and then this blue is like cold, obviously. Fire is okay sometimes. Yeah, fire is essential. The cycle of life and death. Samsara. A really important thing for soil is called the pH. pH is the amount of like hydrogen in something. And so neutral pH would be 7. But when we talk about soils, we describe them, we describe them as acidic, alkaline, or like slightly acidic. Plants generally prefer slightly acidic conditions. So 7 is neutral. As you go to 0, that's acidic. And as you go to 14, that's alkaline. This is a quite important thing, actually, because the pH affects a plant's ability to uptake nutrients from the roots. Yeah, this is the scale used for testing pH, or for testing acidity. Plants prefer a pH around 6 or 5.5. So plants, in general, if you go... Yeah, this is in soil. So soil is slightly acidic. When you actually look at... So people who deal a lot with soil, I recommend using gloves because you might be dealing with a really acidic soil. And if you're touching soil for 5 hours every day and it's acidic, then you're constantly interfacing with an acid. Yeah, plants don't really want that basic soil, Salty Boy. Yeah, there's some plants that can do well in it, but in general, they want slightly acidic. Some plants have evolved specifically for alkaline soil. So the soil here in Austin, Texas is alkaline. So the native plants have found ways to survive. You get nutrient deficiencies when it's alkaline. And then some soil is super acidic, and we'll talk about that. But if you buy general potting media, it'll be like 6. So here's a diagram that really illustrates that soil pH affects which nutrients the plant will be able to intake. So here's 6. On the top is the pH scale, so 4 on the left, 10 on the right, meaning it's alkaline. Plants like slightly acidic. Oh, I turned the camera off. That's right. I'm bringing it back. I forgot. I was so captivated. Plants like slightly acidic soils. And so if you look at this blue section, this is kind of general plant preference. Each of these black bars has a width. And the width of that black bar is how much and how easily a plant can uptake that nutrient. So at like 6, pH of 6, the plants need all these nutrients. They can get nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium and sulfur and calcium and magnesium and iron and manganese and boron and copper and calcium and zinc and molybdenum really easily. You thought it was a podcast. This is live. Yeah. And so here, if you look at alkaline, go to pH of like 8.5. The plant's going to have iron deficiencies, and it might have even potassium deficiencies, and boron deficiencies, and manganese deficiencies. And so that's why pH is important. And what happens is, one of the reasons why this happens is plants, in their roots, they emit an acid to exchange a nutrient. A nutrient, like, might be, at the microscopic level, connected to a tiny particle of soil. And the plant does an exchange. It says, I'm going to take this, calcium, and I'm going to put a hydrogen there. Yeah, CEC, there you go. Are there certain plants that have an affinity for more basic soil? Jerry, that's correct. Certain plants prefer alkaline or basic soils. But pine trees and rhododendrons and azaleas, they love acidic soils. So here in Austin, Texas, where it's alkaline, we can't really grow pines or else they'll get iron deficiencies, which means then they'll be chlorotic and they'll have issues with their chlorophyll development. It's chemistry, but agriculture. Let's look at the soil profile again. Let me drink some water. Raymond, exactly, yeah. Lava rocks. You give your plants acidic water because the cacti like it. Yeah. So, yeah. So, pine trees do grow in Texas, but they grow in East Texas where the soil is acidic and highly weathered. So when we talk about types of soil, classification, we'll see that there's a type of soil specifically for pine forests. So the soil profile has layers. Everyone identified that really well. The layers in soil science are called horizons. Cue the music. No, there's no music to cue. I want to play the Disney Horizons song from Epcot, but Disney will flag this. And anyway, the top layer is called the O horizon. This is a general soil sample horizon. The O horizon is organic material. So Yolban or someone had mentioned that plant material and animals will die here, and they will become the part of the organic matter. Right below that is called topsoil. So the topsoil is a really rich area for plant growth. Then the B horizon, so A is topsoil, B is called subsoil. This is the kind of, area. Each type of soil will have different qualities for the different horizons, but in general, the B horizon is like, okay, it's kind of rocky, it's got some nutrients in it, but the roots are going to go down there and break up the rocks. And then C is the parent material. And you go below the C horizon, and that's straight up bedrock. So parent material so let's say I'm in Austin, Texas, which I am. The bedrock is limestone, which is dead. It's a calcium carbonate, which is exoskeletons of different marine organisms, and the carbon cycling of when Austin was underwater, 100 million years ago or something, 200 million, 150 million years ago. Thank you for following, Jesse. B is for drainage. That's one way to think about it. So there's 12 different types of soil. And they might have different qualities of these horizons. So Zaza Dali had a question. It's a good question. Do these horizons hypothetically get more basic the further you go down, since decomposing organic matter is acidic? That's a great question. Well, with the parent material, I think it's defined by parent material. So the bedrock is then broken into parent material. If it's an alkaline parent material, then that would give you alkaline soils. But your point is also correct. Organic material will acidify, and then weathering and the age of a soil and the rainfall of a soil will also increase the acidity because it leaches some nutrients away and it becomes more acidic. And so tropical soils are super, super acidic. Yeah, many organic compounds are basic metal salts. There you go. So, yeah, if you have an acidic parent material, then the soil will be acidic. So in the United States, there's the United States Department of Agriculture, and what they have is classified soil into these 12 categories. There's an international, like NATO one, which is mostly the same. I don't know exactly, how it differs, but I think that they combine a few of them. So in the United States, this method is utilized, and a lot of other countries use the same. A lot of other countries use the same names and processes and kind of classification system. But there is like an international one which combines a few of them, but this is a little bit more specific. So there's gelisols, histosols, andisols, spodosols, oxasols, iridosols, vertisols, ultasols, mollisols, alphasols, and septosols, entasols. What do they have in common? They all end in what? It is colorful. Yeah. I wonder how far redwood roots go and what the soil looks like. Plants and gaming. Well, let's see if we can guess what it would be. They all end in sol. Yeah. Darkblade, we're getting dirty. They all end in saul. Yeah, they end in sol, which is like soil. And these words at the front are the prefixes that indicate something. Better Call Saul. Yeah, that'd be a funny joke. Wish I thought about that. So I'm going to run through some of the like notable and interesting soils. Some of them, I mean, they're all interesting, but I'm going to tell you my like 5 most fascinating ones. Dalalok, you're going through soil types for building construction. Okay. So Dalalok's an architect, and so, there's a few, I'm about to mention a soil that will be very important for architects. So gelisols. A gelisol, I put 2 L's because it sounded better. Gelare is Latin meaning to freeze. Gelisols on this map are this dark blue. And it is the permafrost. It is the soil that is always frozen. This is a soil that's always frozen. Spodosols. Spodosols, from the word spodos meaning wood ash. If you look on the map here, these are the coniferous forests. So this soil is relatively acidic. Raymond, that red soil is a fascinating one. You can see that this spodosols are kind of like a pine forest soil. Okay, here's the red one. There's 3 that I think are really fascinating, and this is one of them. The oxasols. Oxasol from the French word oxide, which means oxide. Oxasols are highly weathered soils that are acidic. They're beautiful. They'll stain your shoes. They're often utilized agriculturally for crops grown as monocultures, and also like pineapples are grown as what is called a pineapple plantation. Do oxasols cover the Martian surface? Good question, Harsh. I don't know. I mean, it is a soil that is rich in iron, but there's some other compounds in there that are different than this one. So the chemical constituents of oxasols, it might be different. And oxasol is a type of way of classifying a soil based on its horizons. and how they change, and some key things about it. So one thing about oxasols is that you find them where it rains a lot. Yeah, perchlorates and iron oxides of Mars. Exactly. There you go. Thank you, Esther. So in Oklahoma, you have red soils, but apparently they also have red soils up Midwest. Yeah. So these soils are, uh, they're kind of crazy because they're old soils in the sense that they have seen a lot of weathering. So if you go to Hawaii, areas where they get a lot of rain that are more old in the sense of saying that it has existed and seen more rainfall. Yeah. You have red soils in the center of Asia. Lots of iron. Yeah, they're iron oxide. These soils are kind of challenging to grow in, so often they'll grow plantation crops. Yeah, cinnamon boy. So, same. Cinnamon boy is in Hawaii. When I was in Hawaii, we would go to one of our research sites, and every time we'd go there, it had oxasols. Everything would get stained red, and I couldn't get it out. And so this is a fascinating one. Mollisols. Mollisols are soft soils, and these are your prairie soils. Mollisols are formed from grasses, the roots of grasslands. Roots in prairies go down deep, and they develop a really rich, healthy, robust, often dark soil. These soils are sometimes called black soils or prairie soils because they're literally dark black. Lots of organic matter, lots of natural material in it. These are used to grow lots of crops. This land in the United States is what we consider like the breadbasket of America, where we grow tons of grasses. This is from a prairie, so there's trees. Yeah, what is a prairie? So I realized that yesterday when I was trying to, practice. A prairie is an ecosystem where there's like some trees, but lots of grasslands and wildflowers. So there's lots of grasses, really. Imagine if you think of like a bunch of bison, running across a hilly area where there's some trees, but it's mostly grasses and stuff. That's what a prairie is. And it's often has lots of seasonal wildflowers. Use vinegar to chelate the metals. Okay. Chemistry, thank you. Bison are so cool. Yeah. So these soils are great agriculturally. And if you look at the world, central United States has a ton of them, and then out here in Asia and parts of Europe and South America have these kind of prairie soils. You can also give them sub names. So the prairie soil of mollisol, the one that dominates here is a type of mollisol called an ustol, and you can keep qualifying them based on the moisture. So a Mediterranean mollisol is a xerol, and these are out here. But this is the majority of it, is these. You can see the bar graph down here. So this one is my favorite soil. This is called a vertisol. Verto, meaning to turn. And if you look on the map, there's not a lot. This is the soil you see in all those old cowboy movies. This is important for Dalalok as well. This is the soil that you see in those cowboy movies where the land is all crispy and crackled. This is a very clay-rich soil that when it fills with water, it expands. And when it dries, it shrinks. So vertisols you can think of, they have vertical lines in them. They shrink and swell. Less than 2% of the earth is this soil. It's very rare. In the United States, it really only exists in Texas. And then it's present pretty heavily in India and Australia and Africa. Is that Ethiopia? So this soil, because it shrinks and swells when it rains, is this soil from Ilus? I don't know what illus is. Look. But when this soil dries out, that's Sudan. Okay, thank you. Yeah. When the soil dries out, it looks like this. It cracks. Texas has a state flower and a state tree, and we have a state soil, and it's called the Houston Black because it's a black soil because it's a rich. Some states have state soils. This soil is iconic, and it exists between Austin and Houston. It is this strip right here. So Dallas is up here. So all the big cities except for Houston are along this line. So the east side of every big city has a bit of the state soil of Texas. And soils coincide with ecological regions almost perfectly. If you look at Texas got that soil tattoo. Oh, yeah, that's right. I don't know if California is a state soil. It's up to the state to determine if they want to celebrate something. Texas is full of pride in itself and its things. Yeah, houses in Texas built on concrete pads. So there's a little bit, so this is the biggest strip of it, and there's little patches around Texas. There's a little patch of it in Houston, this shrink and swell clay. And my grandparents' house, when it rains, the doors don't close because the soil shifts. The whole house moves. And my current apartment complex, they did not build it appropriately for this unique soil that is less than 2% of the world. And so there's little cracks and fissures in various places when it rains. And things have shifted. And then there's also in Hawaii. So if you're in Hawaii, Cinnamon Boy, the west side of Hawaii has this soil. Hawaii has every type of soil except the permafrost. But it's a good soil. We love it. And so this soil coincides perfectly with a region called the Blackland Prairie. So the soil is dark black and rich, and so it's also prairie, so it's called the Blackland Prairie. And so if you were interested in classifying soils, this is what you would do. Start at the top and work your way to the bottom. Imagine if someone eats all the soil under their house. That would be fascinating. It could be done. It would be a fascinating and unwise choice. So soils with permafrost are called gelisols. If they got more than 20% organic material, they're called histosols. So I skipped some of these, so I'll just tell you. Soils can mix. Not really, because it's an artifact of its location and the environment around it. So it's not like you're going to have a mixture of an oxisol and a spodosol. These are like complete opposites. So, I mean, they're not, but, you know, yeah. They would be unique. You wouldn't have them mixing. So I'm just going to run through key characteristics of all of these, so at least you've been exposed to them, so when you start reading about this for fun later today, you'll have heard it before. I nerded out on a Chernozem one time. Is that a histosol? I don't know what a Chernozem is, chemistry boy. But, so, number 3. If it's an acidic soil with a subsurface with a lot of metal, then it's a spodosol. So spodosols are like coniferous forests that are kind of often wet and the soil is acidic. If it's from volcanic ash, it's an andosol. If it's intensely weathered and in tropical environment or subtropical, an oxisol. It'll be red, and it will have been really wet and rainy and tropical, where it rains so much that there's so much leaching of things that it just becomes acidic. Clayey soils that shrink and swell, they have a really high shrink and swell capacity, are vertisols. Soils with arid environments and subsurface horizon development. So if it's a really dry environment, aridisol, that's desert soil. Strongly leached soils with subsurface clay accumulation, ultisols. This is the mollisol. Grassland soils with high base saturation, those rich, dark, black soils are mollisols. Moderately leached soils with subsurface clay, alpha soils. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't really care much about ultisols and alpha soils. Not fun for me. And inceptisols. Combine all those three. Maybe NATO did something right. Maybe they combined all those three and saved us from misery. No, they're important. I'm just being silly. Soils with weakly developed subsurface horizons are inceptisols and the antisol. That's the last one. There's 4 of these I don't give a shit about. Okay. No, I do. I'm just being silly. Okay. I'm going to use Texas as an example. The inceptisol slander won't be tolerated. Well, Beast Chat. I'm going to use Texas as an example because there's a lot of different soils and ecoregions in Texas. So this pink area so this is a map of soils of Texas. This pink area perfectly coincides with what is an ecoregion where all the like plants and animal life is kind of a unique set of things. So it's a unique ecosystem, and it coincides almost perfectly with the soils here that are pink. There is a unique situation where there's like this outcropping where the soil is different. And then 39, all of these gray, this is the vertisol that shrinks and swells. And this also aligns perfectly with the blackland prairie. All of this down here, 30 to like 33, this soil down here is quite different from all the other soils, and it also perfectly aligns with the Camulapan thorn scrub, or the mesquite. So, Dalalog, you thought the soil was influenced by the weather of the region. Yes, soil is influenced by the weather of the region. And so, soil is influenced by the parent material, the geologic activity throughout the formation of the land, and then the weather, so the amount of rain, and then biological systems also affect it. And so, yeah. I'm going to give the example of Austin, Texas here. So this is the city of Austin, where the word is. This is the county, or the region that Austin is within. On the west side is an ecoregion called the Edwards Plateau. Rocky. There's not much like organic material in the soil. There's lots of woods and forests, and it's rocky and alkaline. The soil is clay. And then you go over here, and it's that shrink and swell soil. So the east side of Austin has completely different ecoregion than the west side of Austin. And that is due to the plants, the soil, that allows for different plants to flourish. So if we were to look at it, the west side has mollisols, which are those fertile grasslands, except this is the driest version of those grasslands. The mollisols, the soft soils, and it's hilly. And because it's hilly, the O layer and the topsoil, they wash off down into rivers, and they go away. And then the vertisols are the shrink and swell clays on the east side, and this area is relatively flat. And so everything kind of goes like this. This picture is what west side of Austin looks like. And this is all the soil. There's not much organic material here. It's quite rocky. And this is alkaline. And we would describe it as calcareous, because it's derived from calcium carbonate. Calcareous. How do I know this stuff? I went to school for plants, and my degree was plant and soil science, and I was the teaching assistant, and they said, hey, we need you to teach and help with the soil science class. I didn't teach lectures, but they had me help, like, grade stuff and answer questions. So then I learned it, and it's amazing. Soil is remarkable. So this is for folks who live in my area, or people who have kind of a rocky, Science guy Edwards Plateau. That's your plateau. So if you have soils that look like this is what you would see described scientifically. Its texture is a gravelly clay loam. It's highly permeable to permeable, so water goes through it quickly. It's alkaline. The pH is high. It's basic soil. It's calcareous. It's from a limestone parent material. Its temperature at 50 centimeters below the surface is thermic. So it's kind of hot. Give me that soul. It's ustic. It's semi-arid. It's not really wet soil. It's not Fortes Udic soil. It has minimal, the layer of actual soil between the soil and bedrock is minimal. And then on the other side is the blackland prairie, which shrinks and swells. Not the best for gardening. So I gave this presentation mostly to folks who are trying to garden. I said, well, you got some work to do, I'll tell you that. So how can you fix that if your native soil is kind of crazy? So if soil doesn't have plants in it, is it inorganic? Well, what we mean by organic is that there's different horizons or layers of soil. And the top layer is called the organic layer. And sometimes the organic layer is minimal, or it washes away because it's on a hill, or that area is not extremely hospitable to a lot of plants. So what you can do is you can create islands of hospitable soil. So you can make pockets of soil that are really healthy for maybe growing tomatoes. So if you live in Austin, Texas, and you're like, I want to grow my tomatoes, then you do that. You can, if your plant needs a lot of soil, make a basin and put it in there. If your plant does not like soil, so Raymond pointed out, make a mound and let it go through. Terry, welcome, welcome. We're talking about soil today. You can reduce the pH of the soils in Austin because they're really basic. So get it to more acidic. You can add compost. Compost is relatively acidic. Can soil be invasive? You can so Salty Boy, good question. You can introduce problematic microorganisms into soil. Yeah. So integrating compost into the soil at maybe like 40%, compost, 60% native soil, mix it in together. That can help change the pH and add nutrients and improve the soil moisture capacity. And then if you're on a hill, you can terrace. So reducing the runoff with terracing is really a critical thing. If you're in a flat area, it's fine. But if you're on hills, you're going to build this and it's going to run off. So we're going to go through some important things about soil and how to keep it healthy and happy. So you can improve the soil respiration. So soil is a living thing, and there's the atmosphere interacting with the soil. The air needs to permeate through the cavities and channels of the soil. Some people will have, maybe this is a mango farm. That looks like mango, I think. This is a mango farm, and they put this black weed mat. This is like a plastic that basically smashes everything down. The soil is alive, and it's a robust system. This is not good for air getting into the soil. An excellent alternative, and it might seem counterintuitive, like, oh, you're choking out the plant. Not necessarily. Put cover crops. This is a cover crop field. These could be legumes, so they're taking nitrogen from the air, and they're putting it into the soil. The roots of the legumes and the roots of the cover crops are pushing through, and then as the roots die, they kind of shrivel, and then there's a natural channel. And so all these cover crops are creating ecosystems, too, for organisms to exist. Soil is alive and robust, and it can die. It has rocks in it, but there's animals in there, too. That's why you should always wash your hands after messing around in the soil. Cover crops are really important for keeping the soil vibrant and alive. If you have bare soil, you're basically creating a crust of death. Necromancy is alive and real when you see that. Yes, so cover crops, add compost, and you can even add organic fertilizers. You could add any fertilizer. I prefer organic fertilizers a little bit more. They're not better, but they tend to integrate into the system more naturally. And so when you look at soil health, you can add compost into the soil, and then you can grow cover crops. The cover crops might live for like 3 months, and then you kind of push them down, or they naturally die because they're annuals. you kind of let that sit and it becomes a green manure, which is just a natural, the plants are dying and then they will decay and go back into the horizon. This is in Hawaii and they have composting rich materials. So these are all the things that are in soil. There's polyphenols and lignin, which is that woody compound, so that's like fiber. Cellulose, hemicellulose is also like fiber. There's proteins and sugars. These things are all critical components of soil. And when you think about soil, you have to think about how it's thank you for the hydration. Thanks for following Jim Ochoa. Raymond mentioned the three sisters. Yeah, in the indigenous practices in what is now New York in the United States, indigenous folks used three different crops that benefited each other and helped and improved the soil. Rainstrain, thanks for subscribing. Appreciate it. So when you look at soil health, if you're not doing like a three sisters planting, then you can use they're called cultural practices. So the way that you engage in the environment and the way you interact with the environment is your cultural engagement. Tilling is a cultural practice. It's a management practice. So if you have a field and you're like, okay, I'm going to go plant a bunch of corn now, and you get a device that churns the soil and moves it around, it can help get rid of weeds, but it's damaging some of the internal structure that exists in the soil, and you're moving different parts of the soil around. Big machines that till and mix horizons can disrupt soil too. So high disturbances of a natural ecosystem, like getting a big machine that mixes the O horizon and the A horizon, can disrupt soil development. Monocultures and overgrazing, tilling, burning can be beneficial in some instances, but it can be a little bit challenging and creates an imbalance because you're creating a crust of death on the top. Steam sterilization, it's a good way to kill weeds, but there's trade-offs. The weeds are a huge issue, so I understand why people do this. Flaming weeds is also a useful technique, and it is better than spraying a bunch of herbicides or insecticides. Spraying fungicides to kill a fungal disease is going to kill a bunch of the fungus that might be in your soil. Yes, so fire is an important part of many different ecosystems, and we would describe them as like chaparral Mediterranean ecosystems. So a lot of Southern California is an ecosystem that requires fire, and when not managed properly, causes chaos. Uprooting weeds leads them to renew soil fertility. Uprooting weeds and leading them away. Yes, leaving weeds. So leaving a weed might actually be better than having bare soil. But then putting cover crops, which are intentional and non-invasive, and have a seasonality that you can then remove on your own accord, that do not reseed like crazy, is better. So get all the weeds out, put a bunch of cover crops, let them do their thing for 3 months, and then kill the cover crops and create a green manure, and then put your crops of interest in there, and do companion planting. Maybe don't do monoculture, and you'll get robust, because there's a rule of thumb when you're gardening. The rule of thumb is that never plant plants in the same family next to each other. So let's say I'm gardening at the community garden down the street, and I'm like, my neighbor in the plot next to me is growing broccoli, and it's like, well, I want to grow cauliflower. Well, if you increase the similarity of all the crops, you're creating an opportunity for a lot of pests, and maybe your neighbor's going to get a pest, or you get a pest, and then you're going to get it from the neighbor because they're both Brassicaceae. But if you grow a solanaceous crop, and then they're growing a Brassicacea, and someone else is growing a grass, and someone else is growing a melon, then you're getting diversity, and these different plant families have adapted to diseases differently, and they interact with the soil differently. So rotating crops and changing the crops. A weed is any plant you don't want, and typically they're highly invasive. So what that means is they compete with the native plants, and they can compete with the system you're trying to establish for crop production. So the big thing is that they reseed quite prolifically, which means that they'll keep popping up. Weeds are bad because they'll be taking nutrients from the soil that you might be wanting for other things. So if I were trying to, roses can be a weed. Yeah, anything is a weed. It's a plant out of place. People call it poop, P-O-O-P, plant out of place. You want to cultivate a vibrant microbiome. So plants interact with the soil organic matter, and different microbes can break down things. If you're adding a bunch of fertilizer to your crops and your soil constantly, the microbes won't. Thank you, Adam. Yeah, thanks for the questions. You all have good questions. An example. Let's say you have fertilizer and you apply it constantly to the soil. The microbes that normally break down things, organic material in the soil and make nitrogen, the plants are like, oh, I'm getting nitrogen from this fertilizer that this guy keeps giving me every month. Then the microbes aren't being supported by the plants because the plants don't need the microbes to get the nitrogen. So then your soil is going to die because it doesn't have the natural organisms that produce the nutrients. So you need to think of the system. Everything is connected in the strangest ways. That's what Ivern said. And, there's things that we can't see, microscopic things that are hugely impactful on our plant life. When you think about plants, one of the biggest things they need is nitrogen, and nitrogen is a big thing when you talk about nutrients of plants, just because plants need tons of it. If you're trying to have healthy soil, put plants near your plants, or put cover crops, or grow plants that associate with rhizobacteria. So this is a plant root, and the root creates these nodules. These nodules have little colonies of bacteria in them, and that bacteria takes nitrogen from the air and converts it into nitrogen the plant can use. The benefit is mutual. The plant is giving the bacteria a place to live, and it's giving it food, and it's protecting it. The bacteria cannot experience oxygen, or else it will not make nitrogen. So they close them off from oxygen, and I think they use suberin. They basically create like a cork layer, basically, to protect them. And so there's tons of plants that do this. A lot of them are in the legume family, Fabaceae. Fabaceae do this. Morgue. Is it just edible plant, or all plants that you can have in the same family? Morgue. So that's a planting tip. So if you had 100-foot, or like 100 meters by 100 meter plot, and you planted everything in the grass family, and you had one pest that was only a pest to grasses, then you've lost every plant. But diversification is critical for gardens, for social systems, for everything. So diversifying the plants you have at the family level will lead to greater success. And your plants can provide benefits to each other the same way that we might be able to socially provide benefits of experiencing new things and sharing knowledge and connection. Plants do that in a different way. So everything is all connected in a very beautiful way. Datura is prominent. Datura can be invasive, I suppose. Some people use poultry manure. Chicken shit is quite good for manure, for fertilizer. So there was a couple organic farms I worked at, and they use chicken poop. And then if you have access to lots of meat products, you can use that. It's not super common, but it's a stinky. Organic fertilizers can improve soil chemical quality. So organic fertilizer, let's say compost. Chicken poop. Raymond, you love oxygen? So this is a example of like the health of the soil. This is a acidic oxisol. You know, the red soil, the oxisol. You can see the horizons. There's the O horizon, the A, and the B. Osmocote is a synthetic fertilizer pellet. When applied to this, it didn't affect the pH as much as the compost. The point of this section is to illustrate that sometimes adding compost is a more robust fertilizer because it imparts organic material. It changes the water holding capacity. It changes the pH. It also changes the nutrient content. So Osmocote might give you nutrients, but compost is doing a lot more. So compost is also recycled products. Osmocote is synthetically produced in a facility, as opposed to utilizing things from our community. So utilizing compost in our community to then improve our community is better than the capitalistic pursuit. Yeah, okay. One thing to note, though, with fertilizer is that plants utilize it at different stages. So a seedling, this is a graph showing nitrogen demand. So on the X and Y, the Y-axis is nitrogen demand, which is how much nitrogen the plant needs, and then growth is along the X-axis. As a seedling, the plant doesn't need a lot, but as it's beginning to flower, as it's growing, it needs a lot, and then when it flowers, it hits peak. After the plant has flowered, it does not need any more nitrogen, and senescence is death. I mean, it still needs it, but you don't have to constantly apply it. So if you were to apply chicken manure or poop or something, or fertilizer, you would do it when the plant is growing, and once it hits flowering stage, it's going to produce its fruit if you're trying to eat something from it, and then you can kind of taper off. So when you look at soil, a healthy soil has a couple things. There's the biological health of a soil, there's the chemical health of a soil, and there's the physical health of a soil. Let me see if I can move this. The biological components. You want an extensive biodiversity. You want to have fungi and bacteria and beneficial nematodes and microorganisms and even macroorganisms, worms, earthworms, and things in the soil creating area for roots to grow and air channels and making nutrients. You want to have a lot of different organisms, and you don't want to have a lot of pests. So if you have extensive biodiversity of these beneficial things, there's no room for the bad guys, the pests. Those little dirty, rotten, nasty nematodes that are the negative ones. There's good nematodes, there's bad nematodes. Chemical properties. Getting the pH near neutral or slightly acidic is beneficial. If it's super acidic, it'll be really hard. Optimizing the nutrient levels, trying not to add harmful chemicals like fungicides and herbicides that can kill beneficial things. This is very dirty, yeah, Sean. We're talking about dirt, soil. And then at the physical level, you want to make sure that there's porous areas for roots to grow. So not tilling the soil could be beneficial if you've used a cover crop. Thank you. I will drink this coffee. Making sure you don't mix up your horizons with a big tilling machine. And then folks always ask about potting mix, so I include this section here. They said, oh, well, this is the best soil, right? This is not soil. This is a mixture of compost and peat moss and wood chips and maybe some puffed volcanic rock. This is a substrate or media called potting mix. This one is great. I love it. It's great for pots and raised beds and containers. Throughout history, with houseplants and potted plants, people have used different things. People have used asbestos to grow plants in it. Juri, are ladybugs good for root aphids in soil? Good question. I don't really know if ladybugs go into the root zone to eat the aphids. But Coco Lenny, hello. Yeah, plant media. And so then people often ask, well, what about, how do I get wood chips? They won't be very big, harsh, but they might be little bits of pieces of wood or things, depending on your quality. Sometimes the cheaper potting mixes will have bigger wood chips in them. But people always like, oh, can I get the soil from the ground? You could. The soil from your native soil, which is that living ecosystem, it might not be the best for the plant you're trying to grow. Additionally, you might have construction backfill, which is just random soil mix that has been displaced. So like I live in a pretty built out apartment complex. I'm pretty sure that the soil, like in the dog park, is backfill soil. It's not even the native soil. It's just, extracted somewhere, mixed up, and it's just, they needed some kind of dirt, So it's displaced. If you have a pot, just use potting mix. Some people will put material on the bottom and cover it so that it can drain through. I normally just put the whole thing. Okay, so this is my favorite part. This is my favorite part. What about my soil? Matthew, you've talked about Austin, Texas. Well, this will work for anywhere in the United States, and there's other systems that you might be able to use for, other countries. How do I learn about the soil in my area? So let's say I am asked by there was a farmer who asked me to do some consultation work for him and evaluate his land and what he could do with it. And so what I would do is this. Let me pull this up. South Carolina soil, Juri, let's do it. So, Juri, do you have an area of South Carolina you want to look at? I'm going to show you how this works. This is the United States of America. What we do first is we find an area that we're interested in looking at the soil of. Columbia, South Carolina. Okay, let me modify this window a little bit. The software is a little bit buggy. So I've only done this with Texas, but let's look at Columbia, South Carolina. What we're going to do is we're going to define our area of interest. This is called the Web Soil Survey. There's Columbia. I'm going to get closer so we can see more stuff. So Columbia looks like there's, bodies of water, there's a river, there's rich land. I'm presuming the soil is rich. I'm curious. Let's look at it. So now we're going to get an area of interest. This is my little area. Okay, where's my little bar? Let's go back. It's mainly farmland. Okay, this looks like a golf course. But it does look like farmland right there too. Okay, so let's look at that. The website is wonderful and a little bit slow. Define the area of interest. Get me here. Oof. No. Go back! Okay. La 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 la. We'll do this for Columbia, South Carolina. And if there's any other areas people are interested in. Okay, I'm going to do a big one. Where's Richland? There it is. There's farmland. Okay, area of interest is this big section. You're late to class. You made it on time, Luna Montes. Okay, Tucson, Arizona. Let's do Tucson next. So this is my area of interest called AOI. Then once we've defined it, we can click these tabs. So soil has these big categories I described with the big categories like spodosols and mollisols. And then you have different sub names for things. In this whole area of interest, which is a total of 26,000 acres, they have broken it up to different types. So 7.6% of this area of interest is this type called it has an Ailey. It's the Ailey series. So there's a Blanton series, Coxville series. You define them as series. Thanks for following, folks. Right now we're looking at soil using a thing called the Online Web Soil Survey. So let's click this one. It's 7.6%. Now, it gives you information. It'll be kind of small, but I'll highlight the key things. We look at the... Oh no. I'm so sorry, but they have to go. Thank you. So one of the things that you can look at is the soil profile with the horizons. And so there's different ways to look at it. So this one, which is 7.6% of it, we can go on the map and find it. It's AEC, So we'll zoom in on it over here. The A horizon is about 5 inches deep and the texture is sandy loam. And then it says at 5 to 30 inches, it's also sandy. It's loamy sand. Loamy sand, loamy sand. And it goes all the way down. So it's like a sandy soil. And it tells you kind of what you can do with it. As you click through the section, there's some areas of Texas that I've done, and it has described the soil to be quite challenging to do anything with. How beneficial is snow to soil? Snow is moisture, and it's like precipitation. So, but yeah, let's see. Let's get to this AEC. AEC. These are the farms. So if you had a farm, you could do this. Let's say I own this plot right here, and I want to know about my soil. I say, okay, well, this part here is LAB, and then go over to LAB, Lakeland Sand. So this is a sandy soil. You can click it, and it'll tell you, oh my God, look at this. 0.29, the A horizon is about 29 inches, and it's just sand. And if you look at that texture triangle, the soil texture triangle, to be defined as sand is like 100% sand. And then you go down 99 inches and it's still sand. It doesn't give you an O horizon, so apparently there's not a lot of organic material. This looks wretched. I don't know if you could grow anything there. Let's see if they are. Look at the plant material in this section compared to here. Well, this whole section is the same. There's AEC. Let's put VAD. So if I own this, I want to see what VAD is. Also loamy sand. You're sad, but you're supporting me. Well, thanks for being here. Can we do another county on this site? Yeah, we're going to go look at Arizona next. Okay, this is all sandy. I had no idea that this place was so sandy. Let's get out of here. And let's go to Arizona. Well, thank you. Thanks for that suggestion, Juri. I need to reset. Oh, yeah, this is for the United States. So there will be other surveys. This one is the United States Soil Survey. Okay. I want to redo this. We're looking at soils in the United States right now. I'm going to go down to Arizona on the border, unless, did someone have a specific area of interest? Gila. Tucson. Do you want to do Tucson, Arizona? I'm going to try a smaller section. That the Europhobia. Yeah. I'm curious what this is going on. Let's see. Maybe it's more sand. It probably is. This is the mountain range. It's probably going to be fascinating. And there's a wash over here. The bigger the AOE, the better. The AOI. Okay. Let's look at the soil. Okay, this is the mountain range. It's called 98. So they have different series names. 64 is mined land. So this has all been mined. What are they mining? Okay, it says not prime farmland, frost-free, 280 days. Doesn't tell me what they're mining. Well, let's look at the parent material. Let's see what number 1 is. Do you know how yes, the USDA hardiness zones are based on the average minimum extreme cold temperature. Usually copper, yeah. So, okay. We're looking at number 1, which is this big flat desert area. The A horizon is 1 inch. It's gravelly, sandy loam. And then the B is broken into 3, and it goes down 60 inches. It says not classified as prime farmland. That's fair. So then you can look at all the different things here, and it will tell you. Typical profile. You go, okay, it has 2 of them. Okay, so this soil is a series of like several. It's a complex. So this is where the series can mix. So it could either be this one or this one, but they're all basically sandy loam down to like 60 inches. And so there's some terminology here that's kind of intense. 5% maximum salinity. Yeah, so this is how you can analyze your land and soil. So there you go. This is called the Web Soil Survey. It works for the United States. So if you're in the United States, you can use this to look at where you are. I've used it in Austin, and it's so satisfying because you're like, huh, it looks like the land is changing pretty abruptly over here. And then all of a sudden, you're like, oh, there's flowers here that only grow in this one type of soil. You check this, and it's like, oh, that was a correct guess. And so this is just, I'll show you what my area looks like. If not prime farmland, and then the profile, 5 inches of like stony clay, and then 8 inches is extremely flaggy clay, and then there's the R horizon is the bedrock. So basically in my area, once you go down 8 inches, you're at straight up rock. Look, yeah, I agree. We can do that too. I like what you proposed. So if you're interested, this is called the Web Soil Survey, and you click that green button, it brings you there. If you're in Texas, the Texas Almanac of Soils is a good one to look at, and then the Web Soil Survey, I have the link here too. All right. We have completed the soil presentation. Thank you. I could talk ad nauseum about soil. Maybe we do another soil presentation. No. Honey Magi, thanks for following. So at this point, it was really good. Thank you, Cinnamon Boy. I appreciate it. 10 out of 10. Thank you. If you would like one more credit, it was great. Hunter, appreciate it. Now, if you want, Adam, I will be drinking. Yippee, well done. Thank you. So if you want to hear me talk about another presentation worth all your oats, you're the one who voted the most for it, Brian, is it true? We'll spend some time thinking about it. We'll spend 2 minutes. If you would like to hear me talk about something, put it in the chat. And then we'll vote on it for the topic for the next presentation, which will be February 22nd. Hey, my mom's here. Thank you. Appreciate it. So if you have something you're like, hey, I'd love to hear Matthew talk about that. Wind patterns and climate. Okay. So I'm happy to do a presentation on anything, but I am an expert in plants. Ornamental plants, and we tier list them. Okay. Okay, ornamental plants and tier list. Evolution of plants, Loke. I like that one. We did that one 3 months ago, though. Alkaloids in plants. Fascinating plant chemistry. We could do chemistry in plants. Wetland ecosystems. Evolution of new plant species. Oh, plant breeding and domestication. Plant breeding and synthetic biology, maybe. How to grow native plants versus avoid invasive species. Great. Mutagenesis, GMO. Yeah. Conventional myth. I like that one. My background is in plant genetics, so I'm very keen on that one. Stress responses in plants. How to grow native plants versus avoid invasive species. That one's good too. There's a lot of good ones. Let me make a poll now, and we'll vote. And then I'm use the restroom.
We're guys. We keep a little dirt under my pillow for the dirt man.
Okay. Solar punk. That would be cool. I'm gonna do plant tier list, and we just do tier list. And we'll just rank like 100 plants on a tier list. How about the use of terminology such as cultivar? Okay, yeah, Raymond, that one is good too. I have a presentation on that too. Maybe I'll include that. Yeah, maybe I'll include that in the plant genetics one. Yeah, I'd love to learn terminology. Yeah. How plants appear on islands, in empty islands. Interesting, okay. That'd be fascinating too. Rare plants. Three, yeah. Are you ending stream? Not right now. We're not ending right now. I'm putting together a little list and we're gonna vote. Do plants get island dwarfism or gigantism? Epiphytes. Yeah, these are good ones. I wrote some down. I'm trying to parse through what are the most feasible for me to. Epiphytes, yeah. I got that. Okay, let's see. Plant breeding and genetics, plant tier list, invasiveness. Oh, I'll just do invasive plants and weeds. Algae, ooh, algae are fascinating. Succulents, code star. Are they succulent? Have you ever had a succulent? Were they juicy? Right. Okay. We're gonna start a poll. A lot of good ideas. I wrote down the ones that might be the most easily feasible for me. Okay, you have 10 minutes to vote. I'm gonna use the restroom and then we'll hang out for a bit.
We're guys. We keep a little dirt under my pillow for the dirt man, in case he comes to town. What? Keep a little dirt under my pillow for the dirt man, so he won't take me down to his lair deep under the mountain. What are you talking about? Underground, that's where he keeps his dirt. He does it cause he must, collecting gravel and dust from beneath our pillows, knowing it's well protected and plush. And if you don't come ready with something sedimentary, dirt man's gonna take you down deep underground. You're probably gonna be here for a while. Oh no. Snacking dirt into a little bile. Oh no. Dirt man's definitely smiling at you. Please stop smiling at me. If you don't wanna toil with the soil, then avoid it. Don't take this for granted, that'll make dirt man annoyed. Only thing you gotta do is this routine every single night before you go to sleep. We keep a little dirt under my pillow.
Okay. They're also good. You can't vote. I want to know why trees do not react to forward things in them. Interesting. Okay, they'll look. Well, I guess they can. But okay, Dreamwalker. So, if I'm being honest, I think a lot of people. Stoner Villager, thank you. A lot of people have mentioned things related to plant genetics. So the polyploidy of plants, Dreamwalker, is a plant genetics and breeding topic. The tier list will be fun. So anything we don't do in February, we will do maybe another month. So you can just mention it. At the end of the February one, we'll do another situation. Pyrophytes and fire ecology. That would be fascinating. So, yeah. Save your ideas for the end of next one when we put together a little list. And we might end up doing all of these, actually. So, Yeah, polyploidy, plant genetics, what's a cultivar, what's a subspecies, what's a variety. Evil Gardener. Trash bag genus Euphorbia. Does it have some sense like everything in salvia? Euphorbia does have some sense to it. It's a distinct flower type. So I made the poll for 10 minutes just because I wanted people to have time to be able to vote. But it looks like we only needed 3 minutes. If you have questions, you can ask them now. So Dalaloka had a question where you wanted to know why trees do not react to foreign things in them. They do, actually. You've always wondered why a big tree branch can survive without being attached to other plants. So that would be grafting. So some trees can align their anatomical, their like vasculature, or basically like their internal structure. If you align the internal structure of the plants, then they can connect to each other as they heal. Thank you for following Mepis Bellis and Jay Jacon. I make you want to go back to school. But we can learn here. You don't have to be in school. To the person voting breeding techniques. Plant breeding and seeding. That's the topic. Your grandmother told me that we took a branch of a wild apple tree, cut a branch. Yes, Dalalok. So that's called grafting. You took a piece of an apple tree that and then you grafted onto another one. The little piece you have grafted on is called a scion. So grafting is really common in fruit trees because then you can get better fruits. Okay, well, you see we have a new emote. Thank you, Salty Boy, for the crazy cat. It looks like February 22nd will be plant breeding and genetics unless someone uses a ton of oats. Askum. Yeah. He's a crazy guy. Little cat. We might do some of the other ones as well between now and then because I love talking about plants. Plant tier list sounds fun for just maybe like a Friday. You made an orange rose by using yellow and flower dye. Hey, nice. Mr. Brandune, thanks for following. How? Why does the tree react? The tree does react. It reacts by healing itself and connecting to the other thing. It's close enough and related enough almost that it can align its vasculature. Is it possible to impoverish fruits of different types? In this way? Yeah, you can combine different plants. So let's say you had a bunch of apples. You could graft a bunch of scions or pieces of apple tree onto other apple tree. You can do that with full screen. Okay, good idea. Thank you, Marcus. Yeah, you could do that within the same genus. So plums and cherries are in the genus Prunus. I have a whole presentation on that's called plant propagation. So yeah, plant propagation is also a good topic. Breeding and genetics. Hydra, thank you. How are your cacti doing right now? Pretty good. Do you have any favorite cacti that you're really excited about right now? Well, thank you, Chris Crop, for the rose. I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. You posted last night for day 17. Oh, okay, I gotta check it out. Warsaw, yes. So, we have 2 minutes left in the voting, if anyone wants to swing it. But I've got a feeling that, can we get an outfit show, Montagonian? Yes. This tie is from the United States military. It was made by the Alabama Industries for the Blind. They support America's fighting forces. This is a tie from the United States military. Don't tell anyone. This jacket is a suit jacket. It's a little bit too tight. These are pants. They're black pants. I chose my black glasses to match. They're not the most comfortable, and they're a little bit too high. Hunter, do you know Skillcraft? You were in the military. You know Skillcraft. You know those like plasticky shoes? Props for making the full outfit, not just a Zoom fit. Oh yeah, I got the whole thing on. You know, I got the pants. You look like a fashion designer with the glasses. Yeah, I've seen people look like that. Everything in the military is made by Skillcraft. Yeah, well, good. Sassy Frog, hey, hello, welcome. We had the presentation recorded. Full fit. Oh yeah, full fit minus the shoes. I missed the shoes. Literally down to toilet paper. So yeah, we're gonna have the whole presentation recorded, and we'll put it on YouTube if you want to watch it again. Yeah, no shoes. Foot review. I don't have any black. Well, I do have black shoes. I have black boots. I pulled out the hat for the Texas part. I look really good. Well, thank you. All right. So my background is actually plant genetics. So I like that a lot. Naturally. I look like a spy agent. Agent Whiskey. You definitely watch the presentation later, can't believe. Oh, no worries. Yeah. It's, I think it was, I got really excited, so it was a fun presentation for me. Cinnamon Boy, you voted heavily for plant breeding and genetics. Okay. Well, kudos. So, February 22nd, we're going to talk about breeding and seeding. We got dirty today, and now we're going to do plant genetics and breeding and all these things. Look at that Fittonia coming back to life. Oh, yeah. However, cross plants, not, yeah, again, technically yes, but not necessarily. James Bond. Gaston, Matthew Gaston. You're just getting up. Hey, you made it. How was last night, Darian? You went to a onesie night at the bar in SF. So fun. Cute. Fun. I like my espresso martini shaken, not stirred. That's right. It's much better when you shake it. It gets all fluffy on the top. Okay, well, we'll meet again, and we'll see you later. Thanks for hanging out and enjoying talking about soil with y'all. It's been fun. February 22nd, breeding and seeding. until next time. All right, friends, take care. Have a lovely weekend. And I'm looking forward to seeing you on next week when we'll talk about plants and do metaflora and play some games and move and groove. And yeah. All right. Thank you, Science Guide. Am I spy? The mustache is fake. Don't tell anyone the other look. It does look fake. All right. Have a good weekend. Poka. Bye, Adam, Artie, Morg, Myth, Stoner, Harsh, Darian, Science Guide, Red Toro, Helios. Until we meet again. Cowboys. I need to learn how to read Cyrillic. Key D. Oh, that's a great name. Thanks for following. Bye.